Hello and welcome to the Pie Making channel. Today we're going to learn how to make an apple pie. So for your apple pie, you're going to want to think about what type of crust you're going to use. So you can go to the store and you can get your pre-made crust, but personally I really don't like pies made with the crust. The crust is probably one of the more important parts of the pie, and it's important that it's done right. So I've uploaded a video on how to make a pie crust. You can check in the description below, and that video is geared toward beginners. So I encourage you to give it a shot and learn how to make a pie crust. It's actually not as difficult as you might think. So once you have your pie crust, you're going to want to make your apple pie. And to do this, you need apples, obviously. So Granny Smith apples are probably one of the best apples to use for an apple pie. You want to use, some apples are good for baking, some are really better for fresh eating, and some are really good for making apple cider, applesauce, things like that. So you want to make sure you use the right type of apple. Granny Smith is a good one. There are others. And you're going to want some sugar. So I have half a cup of sugar. I'm going to mix the brown and white sugar together. So I'm going to use half brown sugar, half white sugar. But if you only have one type of sugar, that's fine. Just use what you have, no problem. For the flour, you're only going to want 2 tablespoons of flour for this. That's just going to thicken it up. You're going to want a 1/4 cup of butter. Okay, so half of the stick of butter, 1/4 cup of butter. For the dishes that you're going to use to make the apple pie filling, you really don't need a lot. You need a bowl to put the apples in. You need a peeler. If you want to use one, you can use an apple core. It's not necessary, but you can use one if you want. A pan for melting the butter, or if you want to do it in the microwave, use a bowl. You never want to put metal in the microwave. And a couple of measuring tools. So this is a half cup measure, and this is a tablespoon measure. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do, so I'm going to take my stick of butter, and I'm going to cut it in half. That'll give me 1/4 cup of butter, or 60 grams. All right. So I'm going to wrap this back up, put it back in the fridge, and I'm going to put this on the stove on low heat. Okay, on low heat. You don't want to heat your butter up too much. And I'm going to set my timer for 5 minutes so I don't forget that it's on the stove. So I've washed the apples, so now I've got to start peeling them. The peeler that I like, it's a wide peeler like this. There are other types of peelers. Get one that's really comfortable for you. You just go around the top, go around the bottom, you just go around the apple. If you get any apples that have a mark like this, that's fine, don't worry about it. That's probably where it got bruised or hit by hail or something like that. It's still a good apple. Now I'm going to start cutting the apples up. And I've set the oven temperature to 425 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 220 degrees Celsius. The big thing is you want to get the seeds out of the apple. If you have part of the core in the pie, that's okay. You just don't want the seeds. The core will soften up in the oven. Alright, so now I'm going to add the sugar. All right. So that's going to just fill this 1/4 cup measure halfway with brown sugar. Push it down. Fill it the rest of the way with white sugar. And then I'm going to use a little more. There we go. I'm going to put it on the apples. You may have noticed that this bowl still had flour and pie dough in it from when I made the dough earlier, that's okay because the next thing I'm going to add is flour. Add 2 tablespoons roughly. A little less because there's a little bit of flour in it from the pie dough. But anyway, that's just a way to save myself having to clean out the bowl and use the water because it's all the same ingredients that are going into it anyway. I'm going to mix them together by hand, just like that. You just want to get them relatively well mixed. It's not an exact science. And then it's ready to put in the pie crust. You can use, you can change the amount of sugar you use. That's okay. If it's too sweet, you can use less sugar. If it's not sweet enough, you can use more sugar. That's just something that's a matter of personal preference. You'll get used to it the more you make pies. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and put the filling in the pie. Take the apples, dump them in. So if you have some apples left over in the bowl, that's okay. You can use the extra dough to make like an apple tart or something like that. So the next thing you're going to do is take the butter off the stove and put the butter over the apples. Alright. And you're going to want to cut some slits into the apple pie. And this is very, very important. Just take your knife around the edge. And you're just cutting off all that extra dough. Save the dough. I had some extra apples, so I'm going to use those extra apples. I'm going to use this dough to make some extra treats with the apples that are left over. There you have it. Pie is ready to go in the oven. Alright, the apple pie is done, and I'm about to take it out. Here's the apple pie. It's done. I always put it on this metal piece in the oven just because it boils over. I don't want it to get on the bottom of the oven. And because I had some extra apples, I wrapped them up in this in the extra dough, put them in a container, and I baked a little like apple tart. One way you can check and make sure the pie is done is you take a skewer or a fork or something and you poke it into the apples and make sure they're soft. Don't forget the pie is still very, very hot. You'll want to let it cool down before you serve it to your guests. If their taste buds are all scorched off, they're not going to enjoy it. And this pie is very good hot, and it is even better cold in my opinion. So eat it hot, eat it cold, it doesn't matter. It will probably disappear really fast. So this is the apple pie. That's how you make it. Thank you for watching. Please remember to subscribe and like this video, and let me know how you did in the comments.